captain of the ship, Lieutenant Colonel Lloyd McButcher, confessed that Pueblo was an espionage vessel belonging to the U.S. Pacific Fleet, and all the crew had rich experience in espionage. That the commander of the operation was Rear Admiral Frank Johnson, commander of the U.S. Navy in Japan, and that their task was to detect the military objects and distribution of radar network along the coast of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and the movements of the Navy of the Korean People's Army. Lieutenant Stephen Robert Harris, a research officer, said that they had left the port of Sasebo in Japan on January 11, 1968, and as soon as they had entered the waters of the East Korea Bay, they disguised the ship as a civilian research vessel and started an operation. Lieutenant Junior Grade Frederick Carl Schumacher, an operation officer, said that they had caught operations of various raiders on 135 occasions and photographed movements of military and civilian vessels tens of times during the operation in the waters. Lieutenant Murphy, an administrative officer, said that their captain, upset with no tangible success, ordered them on January 23rd to approach Wonsan closer, and so they had come closer to Wonsan and committed acts of espionage. He continued that their location at that time was 7.6 nautical miles from New Ireland on the Sea of Wonsan, and the naval vessels of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea had appeared and captured them. The crew unanimously admitted the fact that they had intruded deep into the territorial waters of the DPRK on 17 occasions and committed acts of espionage. They signed a joint apology to the DPRK government. As a result, the statement of President Johnson of the United States proved to be a pure lie. But Johnson manipulated mass media to spread a rumor that North Korea had prosecuted the crew of Pueblo and executed its officers. But at that moment, those officers were writing an open letter to their president. Dear Mr. President, now we are enjoying humanitarian treatment and are provided with everything necessary for our daily life. The treatment accorded to us is beyond our expectation, a treatment which we do not deserve. But the brazen-faced United States brought the Pueblo incident to the UN Security Council to shift the responsibility upon the DPRK. Worse still, it clamored that it wouldn't rule out retaliation and all-out war if the DPRK didn't return Pueblo and its crew. At the same time, it brought large forces, including the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier Enterprise, to the areas around the DPRK to bring it to its knees. In this touch-and-go situation, President Kim Il-sung and General Kim Jong-un resolutely stated that we'd answer the enemy's retaliation with retaliation and their all-out war with an all-out war. Many countries of the world support the revolutionary stand of the DPRK and condemn the United States. Alarmed at the development of the situation, the United States attempted to make the DPRK surrender not by force but through negotiations. On the instructions of General Kim Jong-il, the DPRK government stated, "The US government must bear responsibility and make an apology. Then we will return the prisoners, but we cannot return Pueblo as it is our trophy." This drove the US government into a tighter corner. At the time, there was a press conference with the crew of Pueblo in Pyongyang at the request of the journalists from various countries who came to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the founding of the DPRK. All our crimes have already been disclosed to the world. Unless the US President and government apologize to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea government, we will be brought to trial according to the laws of this country and be sentenced either to death or long-term imprisonment. The self-acclaimed elite crew of the United States unanimously admitted their crimes and requested for mercy, saying, "We want to go home alive." But the President and government that sent us here are now blocking the way. Help us, please. Tyler Martin, an American journalist, said that he felt ashamed as an American listening to what the prisoners were saying, and that the US President and government must not only apologize, but also assure the DPRK that such things would not happen again. American people also blame their president and the administration. This threw the president and administration into utter confusion. On December 23, 1968, 11 months after the capture of Pueblo, the United States gave in and made an official apology. To the government of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, shouldering full responsibility and solemnly apologizing for the grave acts of espionage committed by the US ship against the Democratic People's Republic of Korea after having intruded into the territorial waters of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and giving firm assurance that no US ships will intrude again in future into the territorial waters of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The US representative was so confused that he even forgot to write the date in the document. He wrote the date hurriedly urged by our representative. President Johnson complained that the apology was the only one of its kind in the US history. At 11:30 on the morning of that day, the DPRK government announced that it would expel the over 80 US spies out of the territory of the country. Who had lorded it over everywhere in the world are being driven out of the DPRK. They're going without even turning their faces back, flinching away the prestige of their country and their honor as US soldiers. US imperialists who have knelt down before the Korean people are now running away for their downhill march. The people of the world unanimously said the myth of the mightiness of the United States was shattered again by the heroic Korean people.